of the most prolific forums of this conference, and later on I will allow people to introduce all of these esteemed panelists to give them their proper introductions. But it is such a delight to introduce the person who's going to be introducing the gentle lady from the 4th Congressional District. And this person is touted to be quite soon, very soon, probably the next mayor of the city of Milwaukee, very soon. This is my opinion. This is a wonderful, wonderful alderman. And I just have to say this, during the course of the primary, when everybody was trying to figure out who's going to endorse who, and you better not endorse anybody because it might be dangerous, and they came to him and said, you know, you better wait. He said, wait for what, till she lose? And he came right out front, and he's worked with us ever since, and he is one of the very best of the best. He is Alderman Willie Wade, and he is just absolutely dynamic. He's wonderful. He has a beautiful wife, and he is such a supporter and such a, he's not a politician, he's an elected servant of the people. Alderman Willie Wade of the 7th District of Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Thank you very much, Brenda. That's one of the best introductions I ever had in my life from someone who wasn't trying to get money from me. Like she said, my name is Willie Wade. I sit on the Milwaukee Common Council. I'm alderman of the magnificent 7th District in the city of Milwaukee. My district consists of about 50,000 constituents. My district is within the boundaries of our wonderful Congresswoman's district. And although we're here in Washington, D.C., when Congresswoman Moore got elected to represent us in Washington, D.C., the 7th District got so much more significant. Our community got so much more significant. Access that we didn't have before she was here, all of a sudden we have that access. I'm going to give you a small example. There was a floodplain area in my aldermanic district that the city spent millions of dollars to repair the floodplain. So all of the repairs were done so they could change the floodplain lines, and the people would not have to pay a mandatory flood insurance between $400 and $1,200 a year. All of the work was done. But because they were still in the floodplain, they had to continue to pay this money for 10, 15 years. Once Congresswoman Moore got to office, I called up, I had to get 5 different municipalities involved. I called up FEMA, trying to get help, could not get help. Once Congresswoman Moore got there, I called her office called somebody in Chicago, and FEMA was on the line in 3 hours. After that, we were able to put together the program to get the flood lines redrawn, and those people were able to decide on their own instead of have to have that mandatory payment. None of this would not have happened had it not been for Congresswoman Moore representing us at the federal level. Another example, if you look at her bio, and I'm not going to read this whole bio. Most of us in here know her. We know how hard she worked. We know how sincere she is. We know how much she cares about the people. But I am going to take just a portion of it. If you see that 3rd paragraph where it says, Congresswoman Moore is a strong advocate for measures that focus on improving the economic and employment conditions in low-income communities. Representative Moore has fought to curb predatory lending in the minority neighborhoods, supported sound efforts to help small businesses grow, and advocate the creation of new jobs. That paragraph alone has spoke volumes in my aldermanic district and in the city of Milwaukee. We have a new ordinance. Ironically, it's called the Moore Ordinance. And that ordinance says that anyone who gets a subsidy from the city of Milwaukee to the tune of $1 million, 25% of the contracts have to go to minority and emerging businesses. 40% of the workers hired to do the work, 40% have to come from the city of Milwaukee. That's significant when a lot of communities we see work being done and the people doing the work don't look anything like the people in the community. That Moore Ordinance also has a provision in it that has a residency, that has a local business initiative. So if your business is located in the city of Milwaukee, you get some points, I think to the tune of 5 points on your contract bid. So if someone is outside of the city and they're not at least 5 points within your bid, the business that's located in the city gets that contract. So the Moore Ordinance is a very significant job creation tool that we've been using to get the city back to work. Last but not least, I had a 150-acre brownfield development where A.O. Smith moved out of our community. We had to do remediation, we had to do infrastructure work, and all other sorts of things to get this back online to be a job creation site for the city of Milwaukee. Well, all of the money, people talk about earmarks. With all of the money we got from Congresswoman Moore, we were able to put together a program where we invested $34 million in the heart of my district. And right now, the company that's building the high-speed rail for Washington and Minnesota and Wisconsin will be building those rails in my automatic district. They'll be creating up to 300 jobs. They're in the building right now. And they'll start to put nuts and bolts on those first trains this October. None of this would be possible had we not had a leader like Congresswoman Moore up here on Capitol Hill fighting for our community. So it is an honor and a pleasure for me to introduce our esteemed Congresswoman from the 4th Congressional District, Congresswoman Gwendolyn Moore.
Thank you so very much for that great introduction. And after an introduction like that, I kind of wonder what I'm going to say. Welcome to Black Man in the White House. Is this the beginning of a post-racial society? Part 2. It's part 2 because there was tremendous demand for this, having gone overtime last time, run out of time, and so many people wanted to continue this conversation. Certainly want to welcome everybody from Milwaukee who's here. Yeah, Milwaukee in the house. And, you know, there are people from Wisconsin here, and there are people who have been dearly departed from Wisconsin, but have continued to follow us. They're here in Washington, but they've come to join us here today. I also just want to acknowledge all my great staff, practically everybody standing up, yielding the chairs is a staffer back there. Wave everybody from DC. Fantastic. I also have staffers from Milwaukee not standing up. They're a little bit older than 18 or 20. I want to thank them for joining us as well. I want to give special recognition to one staffer, and that's Iyang Nyambi, more recently known as Mrs. Garrison. So we call her Mrs. Garrison since she's a newlywed. And she's a staffer that, hey, Gwen Moore. She's a staffer who has worked very hard with my political director to make sure that we pull this together. So I want to just sort of step forward a little bit, Mrs. Garrison. This is Mrs. Garrison. Wave, Mrs. Garrison. Wave your hand with your ring on it, Mrs. Garrison. Turn your ring around, Mrs. Garrison. But my task here today is a very simple one. I have the pleasure of introducing our moderator this morning. But before I do that, I want to introduce my political director. She is not my boss. I know there's a rumor that she is my boss. She is not my boss. I repeat, she is my political director. She does all things political, helps me get elected, stay elected, and takes care of all other things in between, including tell me what to put on. And I just want to introduce her because she is the glue that sort of pulls this thing together every year, and that's Brenda Moore. And, you know, as a point of personal privilege, I want to introduce my sister Yvonne. You know, she hasn't done anything to help this workshop get going, but she is my sister. So wave, Yvonne. I have the pleasure of introducing our moderator this morning, Eric Vaughn. He's a 25-year veteran of radio. For 16 of those 25 years, spanning 3 successful stints in both the morning and evening radio, Eric Vaughn has been behind the mic as host of one of Milwaukee's most popular talk shows, The Morning Magazine and The Eric Vaughn Show for Radio 1290 WMCSAM. His style he does a lot of research, a lot of query. He's very controversial. I've been on the radio with him, arguing with him. He gets on your nerves, but it's very compelling. You get up every morning and turn your radio and say, what is Eric going to talk about today? And people hang on the line, and he has a very diverse listening audience and has really increased revenue streams tremendously for that station. He has so many awards and commendations for his on-air work and his community service work. His clever handling of issues is widely acknowledged as the primary reason that 1290 WMCS has been nominated twice for the radio industry's coveted Marconi Award. So with much ado, I want to introduce our moderator today, Mr. Eric Vaughn.
Good morning. Good morning. How about that hat Gwen is wearing this morning, huh? She's been to church. Is everybody feeling pretty good this morning? Yes. Were you good last night? I don't hear that. Anyway, how you like D.C.? I don't hear no claps. I want to hear some claps this morning. Got to see Clarence Carter last night. He was the entertainment at the National Newspaper Publishers Association conference. You all seen Clarence Carter? He hasn't seen you either. Bad joke, I know. I know. Anyway, he would say the same thing. He's pretty down to earth. We gathered together again this year in Washington, and that makes me glad because it's home. I welcome those of you who are visiting from my fair city of Washington, D.C. And Gwen mentioned the people from Wisconsin and particularly from Milwaukee. There's some of you from all over. In fact, I met a gentleman in the back, the serviceman, Mr. Yaus. He is from Dallas, Texas, serving our country. How about a hand for him? I should say Lieutenant Colonel Yaus, right? That's right. All right. And as Gwen pointed out, Milwaukee is here. And we're glad that they're here all over the place. I know Gwen asked y'all to clap. Why don't y'all stand up, show them how many of you all are really here. Yes. And you all notice that we all call our Congresswoman Gwen. How many of you from whatever state you're from can call your congressional representative by their first name? Not many of us, right? Lady back there says, I do. What's he talking about? Sure I do. You're one of the privileged ones. All right. Well, and congratulations to Congresswoman Moore on yet another victory. Tuesday was a good day for her. She retains her seat. We're back here today with the distinguished panel. And on my right, and I should tell you, as Gwen said, we did this last year, part 1. We're doing this year, part 2. And it's not Groundhog Day for those of you who said, I was here for this last year. No, it's an interesting subject. And I think it gets even more interesting the longer we have Barack Obama in the White House. There are more and more people who want to dismiss the racial question in this country. And it persists. It will persist for as long as Barack Obama is there. And they'd like for someone else to be there, then that question can go away altogether. We need to keep asking the question, too. Anyway, we're here today with our distinguished panel. On my right is Dr. George Frazier. Not to be confused with George Foreman, he won't box. Or Joe Frazier, for that matter. He's a little better looking than Joe Frazier. Dr. James Peterson. Actually, I'm sorry, I skipped over. Dr. James Peterson. And Dr. Jana Van Zandt. I believe you have their bios, and I won't read them. They've all said, don't stand there and read my bio, so I won't. And I don't say this cavalierly. I think their reputations precede them, all of them, and we're glad they're here today. If you don't know them by now, you will by the time we're finished today. They're a dynamic trio, and I'm looking forward to the knowledge they are about to drop on us and the fireworks they ignite. For those of you who were here last year, as I said, we're gonna touch on some of the same things. It's hard not to, but we're gonna move in some other directions too. I sure. I was given, actually, I think these were Gwen's notes, but they're so good, I'm not gonna let them go because Gwen said he does a lot of research. I do, and I wrote a bunch of stuff, but nothing meets what her staff. You got a good staff, Gwen. I need a staff. I'm a staff of one, but they wrote some stuff that gets right to the point. So that's what we're going to do, because as has been mentioned a few times today, we often run out of time or run over time, and we don't want to do that today. What time do we have to be out of here? Because they always scramble to me like near the end and say, get it on. So where's Brenda? All right. Okay, so we're okay. We can stay all day, folks. Lunch waits. All right. Let's talk about the question. Are we in a post-racial America? All right. What do you say? No. All right. So we can go home now, right? No, we can't leave yet. Gwen's office paid a lot of money for this room, I'm sure. All right. In the wake of President Barack Obama becoming our nation's first black president, the mainstream media began trumpeting America as a post-racial society. We started hearing the question, does the single act of electing President Obama thrust America from a racial America to a post-racial America? They began to say that race matters much less than it used to, and the boundaries of race have been overcome, that racism is no longer a big issue. But many scholars who have made it their life's work to continue the conversation of race and its role in our society disagree, even while applauding Obama's presidency as a milestone. Race, they say, still matters, and I think you all agree. To these individuals, claims of post-racialism hold more myth than fact because far too many significant statistical disparities remain between whites and blacks in educational attainment, income and net worth, career advancement, and healthcare outcomes. Post-racialism seems to be a goal not yet reached. Last year, our distinguished panelists made the case that perhaps we're not in a post-racial society, and that in fact there have been numerous race-related incidents that have occurred after the election that prove undoubtedly that we are not in a post-racial society. We discussed Henry Louis Gates, if you remember his incident, I'm sure. An African-American Harvard professor who was arrested for disorderly conduct and being accused of trying to break into what? Yeah. How crazy is that, right? We also discussed the 2008 acquittal of the officers involved in the shooting death of Sean Bell, 23-year-old, unarmed African-American man who was gunned down on the morning of his bachelor party. This year was perhaps no different. I'm sure if we can look at Milwaukee and find some incidents. Those of you who come from other parts of the country, you can look back at your hometowns and find some incidents that disturb you, that disturb us all. In fact, there was a fatal shooting of an unarmed 22-year-old black man at an Oakland, California train station. Oscar Gray. All right. He was shot in the back by a white transit police officer while he was lying face down on the concrete. Laura Schlesinger, the talk show host, something wrong with talk show hosts, I can tell you that. She used the N-word 11 times, and you know it's bad when they start counting them, right? 11 times during a phone conversation with an African-American listener who called to get advice on dealing with racial comments made by acquaintances. Shirley Sherrod, who was fired just months after being appointed Georgia Director of Rural Development due to accusations of considering race in the handling of her job responsibilities at a private advocacy firm in 1986. It was later discovered that the video segment was taken out of context. And you know, in the media, we often hear people say, well, you took my comments out of context. Well, this was one that was clearly a case of just nastiness. Last but not least, the overall unfair treatment of President Barack Obama. The president's birth certificate has constantly come into question. We should be asking, where was George Bush born, right? In 2009, school districts and parents around the country demanded to vet the president's back-to-school speech. It has now been 2 years since President Obama's historical victory, and it is my hope that we will continue to discuss the implications of having an African American in the White House and its impact on current and future race relations in America. Let me ask the panel, and we're going to give each of the panelists, it was funny, we were talking about this before, 3 to 5 minutes. And they said, well, you know, give a brother, give a sister 3 to 5 minutes, they're going to take 10. So, but they promised me they wouldn't. But I think that hearing what they have to say, as long as it might take them to say it, is a good thing for us all. Would you agree? Yeah. All right. So we're going to start with a 3 to 5 minute or so opening statement from each of our panelists. Dr. James Peterson.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for the introductory remarks. And as always, it's an honor, a pleasure, and a privilege to be here with Congresswoman Moore and this constituency. This is, for me now, really starting to feel like family and really starting to feel like home. So I really love being here. And I love the opportunity to address these topical issues with this particular audience. So I want to thank the Congresswoman and her extraordinary staff just for bringing me in once again and for once again pulling together this, what I think of as being the highlight of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation Conference. So you said I have 10 minutes, right? Just to recap a little bit from last year, you know, last year when I gave a talk about the top 10 reasons why we're not in a post-racial America, and in doing that, I had one of the reasons was some of the incidents that my children had dealt with living in Central PA, and it's interesting because when I came back, just greeting people, everyone's like, well, how are your kids doing? How's everything going? And I kind of choked up when I gave that reason because I felt so emotional about it, and so a little coda to that story, and maybe just a point of entry to think about whether or not we're living in a post-racial society is we moved from Lewisburg, all right? We moved, right? I still teach at Bucknell, but we moved back to the Philadelphia area. Yes, sir, moved back to the Philadelphia area. And now daddy's commuting. I commute now back and forth to work. And it's a long commute, but let me tell you something. It's a happy commute. All right, it's a happy commute, and so we relocated to the Philadelphia area. Everyone is really, really happy, and I've been thinking a lot about that and the talk from last year. So this year I wanted to be a little bit more lighthearted and maybe address this issue again, but do it in a way in which I might be able to keep my composure a little bit more easily. So I figured I'd start off talking about SpongeBob. Anybody who has kids, watches SpongeBob SquarePants. And if you don't have kids and you've never watched it, I implore you, just take a look at one episode. It's great. It's a great cartoon. But one of my favorite episodes of SpongeBob SquarePants is an episode entitled The Idiot Box, right? Classic, right? And essentially the characters, SpongeBob and his homie Patrick, thank you, yeah, see you guys, right? And his homie Patrick, they get this box, right? And what they do is they get into the box and they use their imagination in the box to create any kind of adventure they want to create. And so they're doing that, they're having a great time. And then they have a friend who's a hater, his name is Squidward, right? And Squidward is unable to imagine anything, right? He can't imagine anything, so he just thinks it's an empty box. And he spends his time watching boring TV while they're having all these adventures. And so the theme of the episode is to use your imagination, right? Use your imagination. So I want all of you to use your imagination as I proceed through just a few examples that might enlighten us a bit about the ways in which race still matters in the 21st century, and I would argue will likely still matter in the 22nd. Now, imagine if, first, you're me. From 2007 to 2010, you move your family to Central PA for a job. The racism there is untenable, so after a few years, you relocate your family to the Philadelphia area. Now, just prior to moving and just hours after being moved, your wife and children are so happy that you actually want to cry. Not just tears of joy, but tears of sadness as you realize the struggles they have gone through in Central PA. Now, imagine if you are Shirley Sherrod. Right? You're appointed to a position that enhances your power in some ways, and anytime that happens, hopefully you reflect upon that. She did reflect upon that, and so she gave a talk about that process, about learning about how to, not to become more racially motivated in terms of the decisions you make, but less racially motivated in terms of the decisions that you make. And the irony of this all is that in the process of that, they edit her in such a way that makes her look the opposite of where she is, right? So when the night before this story broke, I get a call from CNN at like 12:45 a.m. That's pretty late even for media on the 24-hour news cycle. And the producer is like, hey, we have this story about Shirley Sherrod, it's reverse racism. Anytime I hear the word reverse racism, that's a non-starter. It's a wrap at that point, right? And I don't have the time to really break this down, but there's really no such thing in terms of the way they frame it. It just doesn't exist that way, right? So I'm already like, okay, CNN, I see exactly where you are, right? They want me to do a hit at 6 in the morning to talk about this topic. So this is already making me nervous. So you got a high-ranking official network framing it as reverse racism, and so as I'm preparing to go into that, I'm thinking like, I don't care what is said in this clip. I know it's out of context. Right. I didn't even care. And at that point in time, this is the night before the story really broke. So we didn't have the full tape. The only tape that they sent me from CNN was that right-wing doctored up tape. Okay? So I watched the tape. Sometimes you got to see something with your eyes and really believe what you have to believe with your mind. So I knew it was out of context. And so they had me on the show and they tried to frame it. They want to frame it. And I did everything I could to help them to understand that, listen, there's context for this. And also, you can tell, even from that early clip, that she's using this as an anecdote to try to teach. So it's hard to get that in terms of sound bites on CNN, but I did my best. What was interesting is that as the story unfolded and the tape was revealed, right, now I'm getting plenty of calls. They want me to come back on now because now I was a little bit ahead of the story. So I had a few opportunities to do some media on that piece. And I hope that Shirley Sherrod's story will be a reminder for us of the ways in which race is still central in our society. Now, imagine if you are Mexican and you live in Arizona. Imagine if you are Mexican and you live in Arizona. The governor of Arizona attempted to implement what I would call a cynical and sinister policy, Arizona Immigration Law AB 1070, right? Which allows state law enforcement officials to ask of individuals for proof of their citizenship. Now, better still, imagine if you just looked like you were Mexican, right? Imagine if you just looked like you were Mexican and you lived in Arizona, right? Because that's all they would need to stop you, to detain you, to ask you for your, I mean, that seems like a different time period and a different region of the world. That's right here in Arizona. Now, imagine if you are Muslim and you want to pray at or near ground zero, right? Right? Imagine if you're Muslim and you want to pray at or near ground zero. Right? Imagine if, still, this is even better. Imagine if you drive a cab, you look Arabic, and when someone asks you if you're Muslim, you admit to it, and they stab you. Right? Someone asks you if you're a Muslim, you admit to being who you are, and they stab you for that. That's a true story. Now, I know the Ground Zero stuff is somewhat controversial, and sometimes in the African-American community, we just want to breathe sighs of relief when discrimination is directed at anybody else but us. That's how it is sometimes. But trust me when I tell you, all of these incidences are inextricably interrelated. We can't close our eyes when it's somebody else because it's going to come right back around to us. That's why we have historically always been the greatest defenders against discrimination. That's why all these different movements that are after civil rights borrow the tools of civil rights to enact their rights and their movement towards freedom. So don't sleep on those. Now, imagine if, and you might have to close your eyes for this one. You might have to close your eyes for this one. Imagine if you're one of the two black guys standing on stage behind Glenn Beck when he's delivering his stupid Tea Party speech right here on the Mall of Washington. Seriously. Like, what's going on in your head? If you're one of those two black guys who's standing behind, you know what I'm talking, you know those two guys? Right? I mean, what's going on in your head? Because you can't tell me you're living in a post-racial, you're not thinking in any kind of post-racial way if you're one of the two black guys representing the Tea Party behind Glenn Beck. Now, I don't know how much he paid those guys to be there, but I hope they got their money's worth. Right? Sure. I mean, again, same deal. Like, if you can't be black and be in that context and think we're in some kind of post-racial moment, because obviously, you may be a very expensive token, but you're still a token, right? Now, imagine if you're the first black president of these United States, right? Imagine if you're President Obama and your constituency cried tears of joy at your ascendancy, but that same constituency has been somewhat silent at the malicious, racialized attacks from the right that have been continuous during this administration. Most recently, Dinesh D'Souza, one of my favorite people in the world, wrote this op-ed piece that said that in order for you to understand Obama, you have to understand his father. Right? Now it's interesting because one of the reasons why we know we're not post-racial is because all of the racial codes still work. So if you say Kenyan, right? Oh my God, right? If you say Muslim, right? Oh my God, you can code race into so many different terms, and this is how you know we're not really quite beyond it. Gingrich also chimed in here and basically said, the only way to understand Obama is to understand his father's Kenyan anti-colonial perspective, right? Now I don't have time really to break this down totally. But being anti-colonial is actually as American as the Revolutionary War, right? In fact, America is anti-colonial by definition. But you see how they flip it, right? Right. And it's coded as race. Now, we know the truth behind this lie. Obama's father was in absentia, right? And actually, it's his mother and his grandmother and his grandfather who were most influential on his development. I wonder why the right doesn't want to talk about the truth behind our president's mixed racial heritage. They don't want to talk about that. Imagine trying to convince someone that you are American after you have already shown them your birth certificate. I mean, what else, you show them the document. Right? What else are we supposed to have to convince you that what else? I don't know, is there like a secret American card I'm not aware of? But imagine that. And finally, I know I'm a little over time, but I'm going to bring it home right here. Finally, just imagine if you are black in America. If you go to public school, you're likely going to a school that is structurally and resourcefully less than your white counterparts. If you get a job, you will likely be paid less than your white counterparts for doing the same thing. If you want to buy a car, you will likely pay more for that same car than your white counterparts will. If you want to buy a home, it is likely that you will have a more difficult time securing a mortgage than your white counterparts. If you get into trouble with the law, which by the way, you are more likely to be profiled because of the color of your skin, but if you get in trouble with the law, you will do more time for the same crime as your white counterparts. If you get sick and need to go to the doctor, it is likely that you will receive care inferior to that of your white counterparts. I could go on here. I could go on. But you get the point. We ain't post-race. Right? And I'm going to close here with a quote from Professor Imani Perry at Princeton University. She says, it is clear we are not post-racial. Rather, the ideas of racial superiority and inferiority that existed at the origins of our nation state continue to infect our culture and to haunt it with harrowing impact. Thank you.
Dr. James Peterson, how about one more time? I'm sure a lot of you in this room have known for a long time that regardless of what Barack Obama may have said about his heritage, he was a black man and will always be seen that way. So that's why they don't want to talk about those other folks in his family. I should just step aside and let Dr. Van Zandt come forward. How about him?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just in case no one has told you that they love you today, let me say that I love you today. I want to set that up early, just in case I upset you. But there's Proverbs, in the 2nd chapter of Proverbs, there is a scripture that says, when you love someone, you must correct them. For if you do not correct them, it means that you allow them to grow astray, and that is not loving. I am a spiritual activist. That's what I do. I'm a spiritual technician. That means I know the technologies and the systems, practices, and processes that grow us from the inside out. 14 years ago, well, really clearly, forever, about 9 years ago, I turned off the news. I don't watch it. I haven't bought a newspaper, except a black newspaper, because it was too confusing for me. In 1992, I wrote a book entitled The Spirit of a Man. And after interviewing hundreds and hundreds of men and working with them, I created this analogy of this huge 10-headed monster. Actually, it's talked about in the book of Revelations, the monster that comes, the dragon, I think they call it. But this huge 10-headed monster, and each head is different. Some are big and some are small, and all the heads have vicious, nasty teeth. And this monster also has many, many tentacles that come out. And after talking to so many brothers, what I got was that living in this society as a black man, this thing is always after you. It shows up at work with one head. It shows up in the street with another head. It shows up when you're driving in another head. Sometimes it even shows up in the people you married with and living with as another kind of head. And the tentacles, and you're looking and you want to run and you want to get away from this thing, and people are looking at you saying, ain't no monster. What are you talking about? That is not a monster. That is a pussycat. It's a bird, it's a whatever. But what they see and what you experience are two completely different things. And after a while of running from this thing, after looking at the claw marks on your arm, after feeling the teeth marks in your body, and you know that you're bleeding and you're leaking life as a function of this thing constantly attacking you, yet people tell you it's not there, you start to feel crazy. Just crazy. Because I'm sure that all of the men or women that have been stopped for driving while black know that they were stopped for driving while black, got the tickets, went to the court, and people say, no, that's not why we stopped you. They feel crazy. When I live in the outskirts of Maryland. My neighbors are cows, black cows. They tell me that's good beef. I don't eat it, but they say it's good. And when I go there in a predominantly black neighborhood, and I go to the McDonald's and to get my French fries for my grandchildren, because they don't eat meat, but we get the French fries because they really, really are good. Particularly when you're watching SpongeBob. It's just a McDonald's. But when I go to Severna Park, where I go sometimes to teach or to take a yoga class, the McDonald's has wood grain doors on the bathroom. Always has toilet paper and is always clean. I feel crazy for somebody to tell me there's no disparity in black communities. But wait a minute, hold up. My grandmother is a Tslake, a Cherokee. So I do a lot of work with Native Americans. And sometimes, because my skin is dark, I forget that part. But when I go to the reservation, and I recognize that 3 out of every 10 Native women now have breast cancer, something that has never been in the Native community, or uterine cancer, or ovarian cancer. When I see that 2 out of every 10 Native young men do not graduate from high school because the high schools that they've put on the reservations totally annihilate these people and their culture, my people and their culture. Or when I go see my aunt up in the South Bronx, who happens to be Cuban and Puerto Rican, and I realize that Latin women have no voice, no voice. I feel crazy. Because people are telling me this is not going on, and I don't watch the news. So I'm functioning purely off of experience, that this thing is eating my Native American relatives, clawing them, clawing out their culture, clawing out their language, clawing out their identity. When I go to the South Bronx, or when I talk to friends that I grew up with in Brooklyn, where are my Puerto Ricans in Brooklyn? They've just disappeared. There are no bodegas to be found. Where are they? And people tell me when we're living in a post-racial society, I feel crazy because the monster is on us. It's right there, nipping at your heels, biting you, clawing you, and somebody will look you in your face and say, this ain't about race. That's the kind of stuff that just make you go crazy, want to swing across the chandelier and bite somebody. Because this is going on. But here's the insidious part that I have discovered as a spiritual technician, that we participate in it. We participate by walking away from our culture. We use our culture as a reference on certain days and not as a resource for creating our life. Oh, yes, it's nice. I got 8 dashikis and I can wrap my head. But what did your grandmother tell you to do when someone looks in your face and tells you a lie? What did she do? We participate in it because we walk away from those things, those practices, those beliefs, those songs, those prayers that kept us alive in the bottom of a ship. We participate in it. Because there was something else going on the inside of people that allowed them to follow Harriet Tubman in the dark. They didn't just do it because it was fashionable. And if they didn't do it, sometimes she pulled a shotgun and said, I'm going to help you to your freedom. But we are no longer willing to call each other on our stuff and the things that we do to denigrate each other. We participate in it by making them responsible for acknowledging us. If you can't stand up for yourself, within yourself, consistently everywhere, people ain't going to see you for who you are. We are not living in a post-racial society. I happen to be one of, if not the only, internationally recognized spiritual teachers in this country. I can't get a PBS special. Can't get one. Can't get a TV show because I refuse to pull my skirt up high enough or put on a thong. Can't get one on BET. Just spent 16 months with BET trying to bring to light a show about uniting fathers back with their children. BET didn't want it. VH1 wants it, but they want me to go get the drunk fathers and the drug addict fathers. I'm not doing that. Because if I don't stand up for who I am and for us, if I sell out, if you sell out, if we sell out, then we're going to be participating in people diminishing us. The monster is real. Just check your butt. You probably got a few scratches. Check your neck. You might have some holes. And if we don't get real clear about who we are and who we're going to be, we cannot hold somebody else responsible, not even Barack Obama, to do it for us.
I'm still visualizing the chandelier and
And biting somebody, right? Yeah, I like that.
swinging and biting. All right. Now, there are a lot of materials floating around this room, but none like the ones you've gotten from our next panelist, George Frazier. Come on up, George.
This is my 32nd Congressional Black Caucus. I know I look 35 or 40, but you know black don't crack. Yeah, yes, I am black, too. Now, I could have had a good life. But I chose to serve my people. And it's been a good life. It really has. Iyanla, you could not have teed up what I'm going to say any better. I love you. I love James. You're incredible. I'm going to take a passage out of the Bible, John 5:30. John 5:30. And Jesus said, I of my own self can do nothing. Now, this is what Jesus said. Now, Jesus said he couldn't do it on his own by himself. So what's up with you? Why would you think anywhere that black people are going in the 21st century that we will not be taken there by black people? I've been giving a lot of thought on what I want to be saying to you and wanted to say to you. This is now my third time with Congresswoman Moore. Thank you. And we need more of the Moore sisters. That's the bad couple. The obvious thing to say to you would be to praise you for your hard work and for your accomplishments. You are a people, you are leaders. I know that you are because you're here. The obvious thing would be to encourage you as black professionals and business owners and community leaders and concerned parents to continue achieving at a very high level. I thought about telling you that your individual and collective success provides our community with needed role models, and that alone makes each of you indispensable. But 40 years in corporate America and self-employment has taught me that your value, that your worth, that your indispensability, if you will, is directly related to your usefulness. And your usefulness to others ultimately determines your level of success and achievement in life. What am I saying to you? I'm saying to you, brothers and sisters, that in my opinion, that we are all here to be used, not abused or misused, but to be utilized. In fact, if you find yourself not being used, could it mean that you are useless? You need to think about that. Therefore, as Inyala had mentioned earlier, the most important responsibility that we have as black people is to succeed. To succeed in spite of the isms of America, to succeed in spite of the economy, to succeed in spite of what is perceived to be the odds against us. Yes, our ancestors succeeded in face of even greater odds. It is our turn now. We are much better prepared. Now, as we prepare ourselves for the challenges that face us in this new millennium, we must include in our plans the goal of redefining the meaning of life for those of us that have gone astray. Iyanla mentioned to you about that. Life, brothers and sisters, in case no one has told you, is about happiness. And happiness is not about a new Lexus. Happiness is not about a shopping trip to the mall or an orgasm. Happiness includes the self-respect that comes from accepting responsibility for one's life and earning one's way in the world. All of the great thinkers throughout history agree that happiness flows from realizing our full human potential through productive work and overcoming ever more challenging obstacles. The driving force must be our own inner goals and principles rather than the need just to make a living. Government cannot give us happiness. It can only ensure the conditions in which we pursue it for ourselves. You cannot be happy on welfare, or you cannot be happy with reparations only, and you cannot be happy with civil rights only. Happiness is an inside job, and it begins and ends with each of you, with your vision, your God, and your unique purpose, and ultimately your results in the context of our community. And leaders, and you are leaders, understand that. But we are not leading, brothers and sisters, unfortunately, if you look at the statistics. We are not leading, we are floundering. There are more black men in jail, you've heard these statistics, than there are in college, and we're killing each other at alarming rates. You saw the interesting email going around. The Tuskegee Institute in Alabama recorded 3,446 lynchings nationally of blacks by the Ku Klux Klan between 1882 and 1968. That was the toll for 86 years. But the toll of blacks murdering other blacks in Chicago alone over the last 18 years, from 1991 to 2009, was nearly 9,500 blacks. So in one city alone, we have killed 3 times more of our people than the Ku Klux Klan killed in 86 years. We must fix that in the 21st century. We have become passive and satisfied instead of angry and dissatisfied. You see, you will never change that which you tolerate. You will only change when you get angry. Dr. King was angry. Malcolm was angry. Fannie Lou Hamer was angry. Harriet Tubman was angry. We're not angry. I travel around the streets of Washington, D.C. on my 12 or 13 trips per year here, and I'm angry. And I don't even live here, and I'm angry. We are not angry, and we must fix that in the 21st century. Our black women are raising our black men. Now, as beautiful and as magnificent as our women have been historically, in the raising of our children, in the keeping of our families together, fundamentally, morally, and spiritually, it is not the responsibility of our women to raise our men. Our men must raise our men. That is how God has designed the system, but our women are raising our men. 72% of our children are born out of wedlock, up 300% over the last 40 years. We must fix that in the 21st century. Our black athletes, they are not stepping up and using their celebrity to change the equality and the class of our people. This has been diminished. I'm speaking of the likes of a Muhammad Ali or Bill Russell or a Jim Brown or a Dr. J or a John Carlos or Magic Johnson. They're not stepping up like that anymore. We've moved from a culture of literacy to a culture of illiteracy. I live in Cleveland, Ohio. The graduation rate this June of black students in the Cleveland public school system was 27%. That's shameful. 73% of our children dropped out. Imagine a young black man today walking around in the 21st century without a high school diploma. Where is he going? Nowhere. He's going to jail. That's where he's going. 82% of our brothers in jail are without high school diplomas. Last Thursday, USA Today published the 2010 SAT scores. At the top, for the 5th year in a row, Asians, 636 points out of 2,400 points. Next were whites, 1,580 out of 2,400. Next were Native Americans, 1,444. Next were Mexicans at 1,369. Next were Latinos at 1,363. And next to them were Puerto Ricans at 1,349. And holding firmly to last place for the 10th straight year, African Americans at 1,277. It's shameful. And the racial gaps, they are not narrowing, brothers and sisters. Since 2006, and this was written in USA Today, since 2006, scores for Asians have gone up 36 points, while they've gone down 14 points for black folk. So we're going in the wrong direction. We must fix that. We must close the wealth gap. We're at the bottom of every single statistic that matters in this country. We must fix it. And as I said before, wherever black people are going in the 21st century, it will be because black people will take them there. So we must not have, Gwen, another Congressional Caucus meeting, and Jim was right. I think this is the premier event of the caucus, and not have solutions. This is my 23rd conversation about this over 32 years. And of course, at the end, people come up and say, well, what are we going to do? Well, as Eric pointed out, there's some stuff on your seats that we are doing. Now this stuff is, can you pass me that, Eric, over there? That package of stuff. Take a look at it. These are things that we are doing. We're not talking about them. We've built the infrastructure to do them. First is we need to save our children. So what we have done at FraserNet, as you know, there are 52,000 top black professionals, business owners, and community leaders in our network. We're 25 years old. We're the largest black network in America. We are proactive. We're about education and training around creating work and jobs and economic development in the context of our community. We have two simple goals: to make black people the #1 employer of black people in the 21st century, and we've been working on that for 25 years, and we'll work on that for the next 100 years. That's what it will take. It will take another 3 to 5 generations to make sure that that happens. And secondly, our goal is to help black people build wealth that can be transferred intergenerationally. But first, we want to help our children. We've built the infrastructure. We've built the network. So we've now built a network for our young people. If you're 17, if you're a student, 17 to 25 years old, you can sign up for free membership in our network and get everything that we produce, including all of our books. Come to our conference, at Power Networking Conference in June, free of charge. But you must be a student. I didn't say college student. You could be a high school student. You could be taking vocational training. You can be taking technical training. You can be getting a community college. Doesn't matter. You must be a student because education is the future for our people. Now, if you're a really good student, a B+ student, you can come to our conference for nothing. This will provide you access to 52,000 top black professionals, business owners, and community leaders to answer your questions, to help you look for jobs, to give you guidance and training. It's free. It costs nothing. We're committed to recruiting 1 million students to this network. It's free. This is something that we can do. No one has to do this for us. We can do that. Wealth is huge in our community. God didn't put us here to make money, though. He put us here to make a difference and to add value. And then when you're making a difference and adding value, you will then make money. You will not be able to get out of the way of money. But wealth is huge in the context of our community. Why is closing this wealth gap so important? Because A, we are the only culture in the history of humankind that put political empowerment before economic empowerment. Last year, we elected over 9,000 black public officials in America, and we're still at the bottom of the educational and economic heap. What does that mean? It means that you can't do it by politics alone. How dare we put that kind of pressure on our political leadership? But again, we're no fools. We were born at night, but not last night. And we do understand that we're all impacted by public policy, and we're all impacted by the politics of inclusion. So yes, we must continue to use the power of our vote to empower those who empower us. So economic development is hugely important. Why? Because your wealth will determine where you live. Where you live will determine where your children go to school. Where your children go to school will determine their higher education, and their higher education will determine their lifelong earnings. And your children's lifelong earnings will determine where your grandchildren live. And where your grandchildren live will determine where your grandchildren go to school. And where your grandchildren go to school will determine your grandchildren's higher education, and your grandchildren's higher education will determine their lifelong earnings. Do you understand the cycle of poverty here? That's number 2. Number 3, in case no one has told you, we live in a democratic, market-based economy. And in a democratic, market-based economy, the only color that really matters is green. No, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's what it is. So until our pile of green is as big and as high and as deep and as wide and as leveraged as any other cultural group's pile of green, we will never be considered an equal at the table of democratic capitalism. That's number 3. And finally, number 4, at the end of the day, brothers and sisters, when we finish pontificating ad nauseum about our issues, somebody's got to write a check. Our Jewish brothers and sisters can write a check. Our Asian brothers and sisters can write a check. Our Arab brothers and sisters, whether you agree with them or not, can write a check. We can't write a check. Do you realize that we cannot even convene unless somebody else writes that check? We must fix that in the 21st century. We have the tools to do it. We've created a program called the Moses Project. On the back of the Moses Project are 10 financial commitments for financial freedom for black people. We're trying to recruit 1 million black people to save a minimum of $50 a month. That's all. $50 a month. There are 10 principles. Look at this. And to become financially free. over the next 3 years, excluding mortgage. So it's a program. It's there. It costs nothing. All we have to do is get people to recognize it and to sign up for the program. So we have a program for our young people. We've also put this program on a cell phone. So we know that young people use cell phones. So if they want to access this network, all they have to do is connect to our cell phone, frasernet.mobi, and they can access all of this for nothing. Download all of my books, all of the teachings of all of the wonderful people in this network for nothing. We have a very special sister in the audience here this morning, Maggie Anderson. I don't know if you're familiar with Maggie. She is the founder, co-founder with her husband of the Empowerment Experiment out of Chicago. To Ivy League, Maggie, please stand, let people see you. To Ivy Leaguers, Harvard and University of Chicago, have committed their life to making sure that whatever dollars they earned was invested back into black businesses in the Chicago area. Go on her website, the EE Experiment, incredible what she has done to demonstrate what we can do when we recycle dollars, and we can recycle dollars, and now she has created a national initiative around the Empowerment Experiment. So there are things being done, and we must engage. We must fix these problems. I want you to repeat after me this little mantra. I want you to say, it's not about me. Say that. It's not about me. It's about we. It's about we. It takes teamwork. It takes teamwork to make the dream work. To make the dream work. We have the timber. We have the timber. Let us build. Let us build. Okay, thank you.
We're going to do things a little differently this year. We're going to get right to questions. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, I'm Arnold King, and I live in the Washington, D.C. area. And my question is, my concern is that's not going to be African American and other minority turnout in this year election to vote in which year that the Republican could take back 1 or 2 houses of Senate, right? And my thing is, should we focus on they're not energized in this election, so should we continue to focus on economic development instead of too much politics?
That's a Gwen Moore question.
Yeah. I think they're connected, quite frankly. We need to focus, it needs to be 2 tracks. Certainly economic development and politics affects economic development in the context of our community. I think that we have, in a sense, we have lost our way around the whole issue of money in our community. I mean, we are not poor. We're just broke. Our money goes in one direction away from us. We're a $920 billion annual economy. If we were a nation, we'd be the 11th richest nation in the entire world. You could take the 48 countries in sub-Saharan Africa, combine all of those countries' gross domestic product, everything they produce in those countries, and it wouldn't equal the $920 billion that we bring to the table in a single year. You can take the 17 countries in the Caribbean, the richest countries in the Caribbean, add it to the continent of Africa in terms of gross domestic product, and it wouldn't equal the $920 billion that we bring to the table in a single year. Or you could take every single country that produces a single drop of oil, according to the Sunday New York Times, combine all of their oil revenues, and it's $750 billion, by the way, and it would not equal the $920 billion that we bring to the table in a single year. But yet we are some of America's most conspicuous consumers, and we've taken, and we do not recycle our dollars, and we need to fix that. I mean, we have every single thing that we need to succeed, my brother, except each other. I mean, God has given us everything we need. We have money, we have brain power, we have those who are in positions to help and to serve as role models and mentors. In fact, 60% of the black workforce in America, 9 million of us, are in executive, managerial, supervisory, professional specialty, vocational, technical, administrative, sales, and business ownership positions. So we have an army of potential role models and mentors. We have surpassed W.E.B. Du Bois' dream of the talented 10th. You remember his dream 90 years ago? If at least 10% of black people could get the finest education possible, he meant a college education. We would then get that education. We would then come back to our community. We would invest in the community, and that 10% alone, you guys right here, would uplift the entire race. Well, we've surpassed that. 17% of black people in America have at least a 4-year college degree or better. So we have surpassed Du Bois' dream by 70%. Said another way, we have a lot of PhDs in our community. We now need some PhDs. All right? We have everything we need to succeed. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Matt Nink. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I want to thank the panel very much. I was here last year. I was here the year before. I work with youth. The program I run is called Global Youth Leadership Institute. And so my question and also my comment, I want to partner with anybody in the room to bring youth to this event. I can't say enough and how much I respect what the panelists are doing and bringing people to Atlanta to Fraser. That's amazing. We need youth in the space here, holding the adults accountable.
Yes.
They're not the leaders of tomorrow, they're leaders of today, yesterday, 2 weeks ago, and our youth. The question is, how can we stop criminalizing our youth? In our city, in Milwaukee, they can't go to the mall. They cannot go to Mayfair Mall during certain hours. My wife, who's short, has been carded at the mall with her own children because she looks like she could be a teenager. So my question and my concern is the criminalization of youth. There's nothing special about me. I'm just a white guy from the Midwest. I ain't got no special training. No, I didn't born abroad or anything like that. You can look at my birth certificate. My parents weren't Kenyan or anything like that. I got 2 white parents. But I appreciate.
Are you sure?
I promise you, man. I promise you. I just want to say
you could have had a good life.
I could have had a good life. Yeah. I could have gone to the other conference. Mr. Fraser, I have been places, though, that other people have not been. I've been in the hold of the Amistad. And I've been also at Walnut and 16th Street in Milwaukee. And I've been places that some people who look like me don't want to go. And I'm not afraid to go there. So my question is, how can we end the criminalization of youth? Youth is not a crime. Driving while young is the same as driving while black.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's got to start at home. And again, I love you. So let me just put it there quickly. In the world of consciousness and spiritual unfolding, expectation and belief are your 2 tools of reality creation. You've got to have an expectation, and you have to have beliefs that are in alignment with the thing that you're looking at. We have to start, first of all, expecting more of our children. And we then have to believe that they can accomplish it. And then we have to speak that belief and expectation into the space in which they live. We cannot afford to continue to speak to our children about what we don't want them to be. I don't want you to go to jail. I don't want you to get in trouble. I don't want you to get pregnant. I don't want you to be stupid. I don't want you to wear your pants down like that. No, 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 no. Because there's power in the word. And the universe neutralizes negatives. So when you say don't, what the universe, the energy, the energetic that we live in that creates the material of, the raw material of reality creation doesn't hear the not, it only hears the do. So it has to begin at home, affirming our children at home. And therefore, when they go in the street and they hear the monster growling and they hear the things, they won't bow down. They won't roll over and show their belly because they're not used to it. Some of the things that happen to our children in the world happen because we prepare them for them at home. So to stop criminalizing them, we have to stop calling them names. We have to raise the expectation. We have to shift our beliefs. I knew that my grandsons were going to go to college. When it looked like the public school was getting ready to dump them into something, I pulled them out, worked, spoke to y'all, wrote books, came to your roach baptism, whatever it was you would pay me for, to put my 2 grandsons in private school. Now I've got one 19 on his way to the Navy because he can't find a job. No one will hire him. And one 16 that they're trying to classify as special ed. I said, yes, you need special education because you are so brilliant. You are so dynamic till they want to put you in a smaller room so you can get specialized care. Now, when you bring home to me what they give you, and then we're going to fix it. We're going to do something with it. So start it at home. Raise your expectation, raise your affirmation, change your speaking, and change your belief, because it's in the genes. The genius is in the genes. So instead of crack and cocaine and heroin, let's put some positive affirmation.
Yeah, let me add something. I got to add something. You want to add? Okay. I'll just take a moment. Okay. First of all, the white brother, we congratulate you. Oh, there you are. Okay. Thank you for doing the work that you
couldn't find him in this room?
Anyway, thank you. Thank you for that work. You hit the nail on the head. I think going forward, this is something we can do, right? I really want to specialize and talk about what we can do, what actions that we can take. I think going forward, that every major black conference in America ought to make it free for our young people, right? Now, there needs to be an age requirement, but that's what we did at the Power Networking Conference. If you come to the Power Networking Conference, pay your registration, you can bring a college-age student free of charge. Now, we have several hundred college-age students running around our conference. Do you know how that impacts their life? Just being in the room with 2,000 black professionals, business owners, talking like they have some sense, that has more impact than anything that we can say. And then finally on this is very, very, very important. How you do anything is how you do everything.
That's right.
How you do anything is how you do everything. So if you have a child that says to you, I want to be a football player, I want to be a basketball player, I want to be a singer, dancer, right? Now, I used to say, Negro, please, okay? Your chances of being a brain surgeon, by the way, is far greater than being a NBA star, right? In fact, there are more black brain surgeons than there are more black basketball players, okay? So I used to say that. I don't say that anymore. I say to them, that's great. That's awesome. Now, let's talk about what it's going to take to be an NBA star. Now, do you know what it takes? Do you know the kind of discipline, the kind of work ethic that it takes to be an NBA star? Your understanding of math and geometry with special passes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How you do anything is how you do everything. Now, if they do the things necessary to become an NBA star, most of them won't make it. We know that, 99.5% of them. But the things and the disciplines and the knowledge and the motivation to at least aspire to that position will apply to everything else in their life. Now, so repeat after me. How you do anything is how you do everything. Okay, good.
All right,
just really quickly here. That one, I'll certainly work with you to bring more university students here and high school students from the area. I would say the Congresswoman has really, over the years, has had a lot of young people in here. I think we had a contingent from Howard University last year. You can see the limitations of our space, though. But I'll certainly work with you on that. But there's two pieces here. There is the institutional criminalization of our youth, and that requires a very, very sophisticated mode of address. So young people are institutionally criminalized in the school system, in the prison system, right? Yes. So we have to address those structures very, very directly. We have to be aware of those things, aware of the fact that when your child is in public school, there's about as much discipline-oriented ideology and just criminalized ideology as there is education. That's right. And so, they call this classroom management, right? But we have to be aware of those things and really be present in those schools in order to address those directly. And then there's our own sort of personal, communal, and cultural criminalization of our kids, where we're alienated by music forms or by the way they dress or by the way they hear. I could talk forever about hip-hop and the ways in which it's been demonized and the ways in which it makes it easy for us to demonize young people. But the bottom line is, you don't believe the hype. Right? You cannot believe that a song or a music video is totally responsible for the condition of young people. It's much more complex than that, much more sophisticated. So we ourselves have to think about the ways in which we criminalize the culture of young people. And once we do that, then we can address some of those really hard-pressing institutional issues, which, again, every day, there are institutions that are criminalizing our youth.
All right, let me, thank you, Dr. Pease. Go ahead. Since we're talking about young people, there are two little people over here. Y'all give them a hand. You didn't even know they were here. They got 33 years to go to meet you, George, but they got time, right?
Okay. Hi, my name is Eugenia White, and I'm very happy to be here. This conference is very, very informative and uplifting. But also I want to say I am biracial. I consider myself biracial. My mother's Caucasian, my father's African American. I'm from Portland, Oregon. And if I didn't recognize my mother and just claim black, she would have a fit. Sure. She really would. She wants me to acknowledge both races. And I want to say that I do have sisters from a prior marriage of my mother that are Caucasian. So it has been a very different dynamic for me, but I am so happy to be in DC and a part of the Mecca, because I would say I have grown tremendously as a person being part of the African American community. But I do want to also say that we are not in a post-racial society. I do see many African Americans still in bondage of the mind, to the point in which self is compromised, and it saddens me. And take, for example, integrity, is very much compromised. Take, for example, one day I was at work, and my sister came into town, and she's Caucasian, and I brought her up to my job. And I'll say I'm in a situation, just for being biracial and being who I am, because I don't fit the mold in which people are accustomed to. So I bring my sister up, and I introduce her to a Caucasian manager. And that manager gave my sister a look of disgust, a look of how dare you. And my sister's head dropped like, I am so sorry you're going through this. But what kills me, and the bondage of the mind, because I am in a situation, when I see that same white manager able to mobilize black coworkers to retaliate to the point where they walk around as if they have arrived just because a person who is Caucasian is being nice to them, using them. It really, I sit back and I'm in disbelief. I'm like, do you understand what's going on here? Do you see the big picture? So I would like you to comment on that.
You look black to me.
But you've got to realize how a person who is biracial culturally, I have never, college, I went to an HBCU. That was the first time I went to a Baptist church. That was the first time I was introduced to collard greens and all the, things that go along with it.
Can't be black without a collard green.
Yeah. Can we all get together and go to the Florida Avenue Grill for her? No, okay, she's been there. We got to find another one. Thank you.
I'm Jean Robertson from Alexandria, Virginia. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Past noon. I'm a cheerleader for George Fraser. I'm a member of FraserNet and have been for several years. And I just want to say that success does run in our race and that we do have to connect our dots. We do have to support each other. I was at the Atlanta conference and talked with Margaret, and that is so empowering that we are patronizing ourselves. Part of my question has been answered because it has to do with how the media impacts on us, how we listen to the sound bites, and then our mindsets begin to believe that. Barack Obama has done so many things. At our last conference, we were talking about 72 things he's done right, but all we hear now from Fox News is all the things he's done wrong. So I think it behooves us as professionals to send letters to Fox News. We frequent those advertisers from Fox News. If we all wrote in and said, you're sending us a skewed picture, you're sending us sound bites that is not reflective of what's happening, that we will have an impact. So that if we get together and do those kinds of things to say to the media, look, this is not the real picture, I think that we can have an impact. And there's 17% of us educated people up in here. Let's do something.
Amen. Thank you very much.
I always think of myself as somebody who's I'm like an FBI agent with the media. Like I really am trying to work from the inside. For a long time I had to boycott Fox because it's just the setup that they would, producers would call me on to talk about one thing. They would lie basically, then I would be on the show talking about something else. And so, anytime you see me on Fox, I'm trying to always, I think, articulate something against what they're trying to talk about. So I try to work from the inside, but to be honest, you know, we might just have to turn Fox News off. We might just have to boycott it, period, because
Thank you.
You know, it might be the only way, really.
I was going to tell you, Dr. Peterson, I've never seen you on Fox because I don't watch Fox. We have
Right.
people in Milwaukee who complain about two of the conservative radio stations all the time. They'll call my show, talk about what's happening on or what was said on these conservative stations, as if I know.
Right.
I don't listen. I mean, if you don't like it, don't look at it. That's
Right.
what I
That's
tell
right.
people.
That's right.
Good afternoon. My name is Daryl Gibson. I'm a senior at Marquette University.
There we go.
EOP program like Ms. Moore here. Well, just being black in Milwaukee is a very difficult thing, but
How about that?
pretty much. But I work with a lot of youth. I'm part of a pre-college program. I coach football at a current, Salvation Army. And we talk about, how we have self-hate for who we are. And we always, to better understand where you're going, you have to understand where you've been. And I don't know if everybody realizes this, but we're the only culture, only ethnicity in America who don't know where we technically come from. We're the only one that's labeled as a whole continent of African Americans. We don't know what region of Africa and don't even know what country. I don't know, I'll go to Marquette, and we have all these Irish fests and French fests and Greek fests, and you group us into one continent. And I was wondering, how would you feel about educating our youth about where they come from, letting them know that they come from kings and queens, people of intelligence, of intellect, that know Romans and Catholics weren't the ones that started math and science, all that. Our African ancestors did, to better understand who you are and what your worth is and how do you better your community. Because honestly, education, like you said, is the only way to better our community. Education will lead us out of this economic hard times, create better jobs, give better worth to who we are. So how do you feel about maybe having some seminars and letting young folks, high school, middle school students, and not just leave African American history to 1 month in February and Martin Luther King and Malcolm X?
He says any one of the panelists.
At our conference, at the Power Networking Conference, this is our 10th year. Next year, Yana will be speaking at the conference. We always start our conference with an African-centered speech. Either Maulana Karanga, Dr. Naeem Akbar, you name it, we have had the finest minds, Malefi Ansante, to get us grounded back into who we are. Because as Iyanla has said, we have forgotten who we are. We have forgotten that we are the children of the slaves that would not die, that we have the genetic encoding of the great kings and queens of Africa, as you said. We have forgotten that. And I think, we need to understand that we are an awesome and powerful people. There's no question about that. That has to be kitchen table conversation. There's no question about that. It has to be around the kitchen table. See, what Beyonce is going to wear at the next BET Awards just isn't important anymore. It really isn't, right? What you're talking about is important. And this is the kind of thing. All of our children need to go through a rites of passage program. Every one of our children should. Like Jewish people go through bat mitzvahs and et cetera, our kids need to go through a rites of passage program. So we are an awesome and powerful people, in spite of the fact that America kept its foot on our throat for 350 years. We overcame that and rose like the phoenix. We're unbelievable, and we forget that. And as Iyanla said, it's in the genes. It's in the genes. And if everything happens for a reason and serves us in some special way, and it does, maybe we were not brought here. Maybe we were sent here. Do you believe that God would put his weakest people here to do his toughest job? I don't think so. How could an America who could morally, spiritually, and biblically justify the kidnapping, raping, and pillaging of two other people, Native Americans and Africans in America, have any moral or spiritual grounding? And perhaps had God not sent black people here, America might have self-destructed by now. So we are an awesome and powerful people, and that needs to be repeated every day.
But again, it goes back to understanding and using our culture as a resource and not just as a reference. We've got to get in it. Yeah, we don't know. I know that my mother was Dahomian. I know she came from the Yoruba people. The Yoruba people went into Nigeria, now known now as the Yoruba people. I am a Yoruba priestess. I am a cultural custodian, and I don't have a problem with that. But black people will denounce me when I say I'm a Yoruba because they want to know if I'm claiming the blood of Jesus. Yes, because he was an African. I claim his blood and his leadership and his authority. But I also understand that when he was on the continent, he didn't wear tuxedo. He did not. So we've got to understand and understand how
the challenge, it's on us. It's on us to get this information and incorporate it, because it's hard. You know, my son is always saying to me, why do black women weave their hair? Why do they do that? Why do they wear wigs, and why can't they do that? I said, boo, in Lagos, they got bleaching salons. Yeah. Nigerian women are bleaching themselves, you understand? But they still understand that they're African. Let us move out of the physicality and move into the interior, because it's inside. I don't watch the news, I know what's going on because the Holy Spirit tells me. If there's something that I need to know, it comes to my awareness. And I have lots of empty megabytes in my brain because I'm not upset with Fox. I didn't even know they were bad. I don't know what the heck is going on. You know, so you've got to do the inner work and the outer work. I don't do rites of passage for children. Right now, I'm doing rites of passage for grown women, because we are the midwives. We are raising somebody's husband and somebody's father, and we don't know our rights. Did you know that there's a gift, a lesson, and a blessing when you're 20, a gift, a lesson, and a blessing when you're 30, 40, 50, and that the ones you are pulling the ones behind you ahead. So I'm doing rites of passage for grown women, because we got 40-year-olds who haven't cleared up the issues of their 20-year-old, so they're acting like crazy 30-year-olds when they're 60. Let's heal it. Let's clean it up.
Thank you, Doctor.
Can I, you know, it's important that we start to use a lot of the educational resources that are already out there. And I think one thing that I would say is, and this is not to undermine the history of continental Africa and its role and its impact in shaping our development, but we also have a very, very rich history right here in America, and that history has got to be pulled to the fore. And there's so many, there's film, there are graphic novels, there's literature, there's, at this point, you know, like Brother Fraser said, we have already surpassed Du Bois's dream in the sense that we have begun to cultivate a rich reservoir of resources that we can pull to. We just, you know, we got to bring the horses to the water and also make them drink. But if you want like a list of things that are age appropriate for the young people you're working with, just holler at me after this piece.
All right, thank you.
That's an interesting segue for me. My name is Evelyn Gonzalez. I'm a native Washingtonian, and I've been attending the Congressional Black Caucus for a number of years as well. And recently, I just returned from Lagos, Nigeria, where my daughter is working, and where I also worked at the American International School of Lagos. And I got an opportunity to mingle with the Yoruba people, the Igbo people, the Hausa people, and others who were there. But I've been traveling to Africa for about 35 years, and I started in Senegal. And the griot told me that I was of the Fulani Pool people who travel. So that obviously was right after looking at my physical makeup, because I've been traveling quite a lot and working overseas and doing research overseas and teaching. And I feel that when I'm in Africa, I have a total sense and a different sense of myself. And it's far more positive. And every time when I re-enter the United States, it's overwhelmingly negative from everything. Your beauty, the sense of beauty, the sense of hairstyles. In Senegal, the hairstyles were pieces of artwork with the cornrows, extensive artworks, and I'm so happy that I was able to see that at that time. Since returning most recently, the westernized version of what hairstyles should look like has begun to predominate. So, and we've always had bleaching around. We had bleaching here in the United States. But now I guess it's come there. So the self-hatred is coming over there. So my concern is how we can galvanize and see ourselves as one people. All of us come from Africa. Every race, well, in fact, I don't really even believe in race because it's a division. It was set up to divide and conquer. Right, divide and conquer, and a tool to control people. And so if we see ourselves as one people, as the Professor Peterson was saying, it's a social contract.
construct and come together as one and work together as one. There are always going to be people around to divide. But if we can see ourselves as one, that we are all beautiful, whether we are on the continent or here, that would make a difference. I'd like to say that.
Final comments. Thank you so much. We're going to have a close from all three of our speakers and final remarks from Congresswoman Moore. I'm so sorry, but we have to. We got to close. Who's going to close first? Right here.
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay,
yeah,
and then
fine.
you do the closing remarks. We don't want to have any more time. I'm so
Y'all see how Miss Brenda works? Make everything.
He said she was going to do it.
Yes.
After this, everybody from Wisconsin, I need you to remain in the room for the Wisconsin photo op. Everybody from Wisconsin, after this, I need you to remain in the room. They're going to be using this room for another session, and we went way over. We were supposed to be out of here at 12 o'clock, but it's okay. But after our illustrious panel and our Congresswoman, I need everybody from Wisconsin to please remain in the room. Thank you so much. Let's give this panel a hand.
I just want to reiterate that it's an honor.
Moderator.
Yeah, where's he at? Yes, right there. I just want to reiterate that it's an honor and a privilege to be here, and an honor and privilege to share panel space with the two of you. It's an important moment for me and time for me in my life and my career. I think it's pretty clear that as a group we agree that we don't live in a post-racial society, but I think the question still is important for us to consider when we think about all the different issues that our community faces. So I'm a big youth advocate as well, and I really feel like if we have a mission going out here for a year, I would love for everybody to just really challenge themselves to contribute something to our youth, if that's a volunteer hour or a mentoring hour, or if that's spending more time with your own kids or your own nieces and nephews, or if that's working out a rites of passage program within your own family. There's certainly something to be said for investing in our youth.
Amen.
Oh, me. I'm sorry. I want to remind you that I love you. We passed out a beige envelope. Please take a look in that envelope. It'll speak to the Rites of Passage program that I do for women every year. It'll speak to a book that I'm publishing in November, Peace from Broken Pieces, where I look at family pathologies and how those family pathologies at the mental, emotional, and spiritual level govern our behaviors and our choices right now. I want to encourage you to please let us not forget about Haiti. Find what you can do to do continual support of Haiti, and particularly the women in Haiti. To my sisters in this room, I want to invite you, encourage you, implore you to take care of yourself. Take care of your body, take care of your mind, take care of your heart. Because again, we have so much weight on us right now when I look at what's going on among women of color, Latin women, Native women, African American women. And the things that are killing us don't have to kill us. Whether it's our breast or our wombs or our diets or our hearts are attacking us because we're not taking care of ourselves. Our culture says that we as women must gather. Find you 5 or 7 good girlfriends that are going to tell you the truth about yourself. And you all gather once a month and pray together and touch each other. I want to say to our brothers, we love you. I know it's challenging out here, but we do know that the monster exists and that we are going to pray him down and call a thing and not let you be out here suffering by yourself. I want to encourage you to please put your children in Georgia's program. Find youth. You don't have to birth them if you know them. Right. Just send them to FraserNet.com and get our children involved in money, because now our children are beginning to continue the pathology of taking money and throwing it away in this economy in a way that doesn't build our communities. I love you. Please take care of yourself, and hopefully I'll see you next year.
Love is the answer, and you can't start it like a car, and you can't stop it with a gun. We are a remarkable people. We really are a remarkable people. And today, you must be remarkable or you will be invisible. Let me repeat that. today you must be remarkable or you will be invisible in this world. We have it. And we have, and I want to reiterate this, and I'm going to say this till I die, God is not giving us anything else. We have every single thing we need to succeed except each other. We have money, we have brain power, we have resources. It's all in our hands. He will not be giving us anything else until we demonstrate to God that we can be better stewards of that which we already have. And when we demonstrate to God that we can be better stewards of that which we already have, we will also demonstrate to the world and demonstrate to ourselves that we are a force to be reckoned with. We are an awesome and powerful people. We are a sleeping giant. And we must wake up. And many in this room are part of that wake-up process. So I urge you, do what you can. There is something that you can do. We need a lot of us doing a little instead of a few of us doing a lot. There's something that you can do, and spread the word. Okay, as my father taught me many years ago, what you do speak so loudly, I can't hear what you say. What are you doing? Okay, so we don't want this to be another meeting. See, we can have this conversation, Congresswoman, really for as long as you're a Congresswoman. This is a conversation that we must have every year. This is the conversation of our lifetime. Now, finally, I study the economy. Things are going to get worse. Know what season we are in. We are in the winter. America is going through an economic detox. This is the winter season. There will be a few sunny days, but we are in winter. Now, we know that there will be another season, but right now, things are not good, and they're not going to get better for a while. Educate yourself about what's going on around you economically. Read and educate yourself, and then find you some role models that really know how to manage money and how to make money in a down economy, and then get your own strategy, get your own plan, and take some action, because it's going to get worse, brothers and sisters. I'm not Chicken Little here. I'm just telling you, I study the economy. What drives the economy? The only thing that drives the economy is consumerism, purchasing. And purchasing is down, and it's going to be down for a while, okay? So, find a way to add more value. What did I say? God didn't put us here to make money. He put us here to make a difference and to add value. And when you make a difference and add value, you will not be able to get out of the way of money. So find a way to make money by adding value. Adding value, that's the key. And then get closer to your family and get closer to your friends, because it's going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly. And we will need each other. Do something. Know that we all love you up here. This is a conversation for the ages. And this conversation needs to continue for as long as we are alive, until our people get it. And they will get it. I have a book, if you want to purchase, click 10 Truths for Building Extraordinary Relationships. I have a couple of copies if you want. The book is free. My signature is $25. Come to the conference, Power Networking Conference, next June. It's June 23rd through 25th. Sign up for $189. You can bring a college-age student free of charge. So that's 2 people. That's $99 a person. That's $89 a person. Come to the most powerful conference. Iyala will be speaking at the conference next year. Come to the conference. It's a special Congressional Black Caucus rate. I'll be right over wherever I'm going to be. If you want to come, come. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Love you. Take care.